Welcome y'all to the Blackhoof Saloon, a Wild West Exodus podcast. Mosey on up to the bar and get yourself a bottle of firewater or a glass of sarsaparilla and listen to some good old yarns about adventures of law dogs, outlaws, and weird creatures. So set a spell, water your ride or your rider, and get ready to tune up your posses. This is the Blackhoof Saloon.
Howdy, howdy, all you tumbleweeds, and welcome back to Blackhoof Saloon, Wild West Exodus podcast. This is Eric here, and I am also with my co-host, Brian and Tom. Say hey, guys.
Hey. Howdy, everybody.
All right, we are back, and today we got a pretty jam-packed show. We got some new stuff that we're going to try out, a new segment where we're going to take a look at some feature characters in the game, and then we're also gonna dive into 1.09 a little bit that just released. That was just before GenCon, wasn't it, Brian, that they dropped that on everybody? Like the week of GenCon, I think is what it was.
Right, yeah. It's been in the works for a while. They did a pretty lengthy war host playtest, and man, down to the wire, there were some really good last minute discussions of improvements on several things.
Yeah,
it was really neat.
What made it really cool is that it was like very much a community project and not just a studio thing, which was really cool.
Well, right. So this right before they even started the 1.9. War Cradle created the feedback form on their website. And so from every splash point where you can look at the cards, they literally had this little button that says, hey, you got any feedbacks on your favorite models or models that need some help or, maybe isn't getting any play, send us your feedback, And so they had let that percolate for a while, and they got a lot of feedback that direction, and then they, basically showed the war hosts, hey, this is where we're at from the feedback, and let's bring this to your metas and playtest this. Let's see if there's any changes that we need to do. And so for weeks, there was a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of, hey, how about this? There was a lot of discussions.
Yeah,
it was really kind of a neat thing.
Yeah, definitely was. Also, I mentioned GenCon, so we just got done with GenCon recently, and that seemed to be a very good event for them again. GenCon's a tough one because it's a convention that covers, like every type of game, whether it's tabletop, board games, or it's miniatures games, or it's role-playing games. So, it kind of encompasses the whole gaming hobby, so it's kind of a tough one to center on just one type, like where Adepticon is all miniatures. But even with that, War Cradle did very well, I think, and we'll probably talk a little bit about that more in the news. But if you guys were at Gen Con, you saw how busy they were all weekend. Also, another thing that we kind of had drop, and I actually just published event for this. They released to a lot of the war hosts a narrative event. They've been talking about doing some more different scenarios that were maybe more like the Badlands, where they're narrative and they go from one to the next. And they're doing something that's the Great Train Heist narrative campaign, where by taking part in this campaign, the different stores can earn certain amount of points that at the end of, I think they were going to make it like a 2-month type campaign thing and going through October, and whatever like faction kind of got the most points, or they were going to be able to influence the new 2019 Christmas model. So whoever won could, like, say it's Watchers got the most points. Well, we could have a Christmas alien or something like that. I had local guys talking about, no way, man, we're going to have a a Warrior Nation, Great Elk, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or something like that. So,
Oh, that would be awesome. I want that now.
I know, right? Someone said they wanted a Iron Horse with 12 attack dogs.
Oh yeah, yeah, like a big sleigh. That would be kind of
awesome.
neat too. So
yeah,
I mean,
like maybe Jake Williamson.
So yeah, if you guys have like a war host in your area, and you're interested in participating in this, talk to them, find out about it, and they can run some events so you can take part in it and have a say in what the Christmas model is. Because I mean, so far they've done just what do we got? We got 2, right? 2 Christmas models so far. That's it.
Yep.
Yep.
We got Krampus Rex and Kyle. Yep.
So yeah, Enlightened and Hex already got one. So there's plenty of factions out there that could get some kind of Christmas model. Possibilities are endless for that. And I mean, I read through the heist, and like I said, I already kind of set up our little event and registered it, and it just the neat thing with the little download narrative campaign that they gave us is I think they're going to do some bonus stuff too, like a bonus scenario where I think one of them was actually you have a train on the board and you're doing the old classic raiding the train, so it sounds like a lot of fun.
Right. So the thing is there's been a train heist, and the Union technology is scattered in the wilds of the West. And so everyone is out trying to hunt down the location of any of this tech that's gotten out there. So in your regular games, doesn't really matter what your scenario are. You can do clue hunts to find these missing materials.
That's right.
And that's what you're collecting, these clues. Because if you find these clues on the board, you end up getting victory points for them. And that's how you can, ensure your victory. And those points go all towards picking the faction. Oh,
yeah.
And there's a couple of unique scenarios for that train heist
packet, I guess you call it.
Packet, yeah. So one of which is centered around searching for the clues. But then they have a bonus scenario, which is it's a very train centric. So it basically one of the 2 players opts to be the protectors or guards of a Union train. And of course, because not everyone could get that big giant resin monster piece. See how I did that play of words? The heavy rail, they put it on. They actually made tokens.
Yeah, kind of like what they did in the Badlands.
Right. So there's sheets of tokens attached to the packet, and with it comes 3 of the rail.
Yeah.
So there's 3 different extra large vehicle bases with the artwork of a heavy rail and 2 of its cars. So the train gets put on the board. The deployment zone is set up to where the Union is trying to protect the train, and then whatever faction the other opponent is playing basically is trying to get on and steal some stuff.
Yeah.
And what the neat thing is the player who opts to defend the train, they don't bring a posse. They control a certain number of units of Union hands.
Yeah.
Depending on the size of the game you're playing, they get more units. And it's a standard unit of 10 Union troops. And so when you get up to, I think, 1,500 or more, you've got 4 full in model hand unit. So that's how the game works. And you replenish those units every turn.
Yeah. It's kind of like getting reinforcements. So
right. And so the reinforcements keep showing up in preventing the heist. But it's a neat thing. It's really neat to get those scenarios dusted off and played.
Yeah. I
but
think
it's also neat to see.
I think that clue hunt part, Brian, is a nice callback to An original train heist scenario.
Yeah, so Tom's referring to a certain, 2-night narrative event that somebody ran at Adepticon a couple of years ago?
Yeah, there is some similarities there. No, I did not write this scenario.
But I mean, this packet thing, what I think is cool is it's showing how War Cradle is really amping up, including the community in these kind of events that carry, have some kind of lasting effect in the game in general, which is, something I really dug about War Cradle is their interaction with our community. It really, stuff like this really amps players up and gets you excited to, get some models on the table and play games.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it is one of the things that War Cradle has been very good about is their community engagement.
Yeah, definitely. So something else we can mention. So this is the episode that we're going to have a giveaway. And last episode 14, we went over a giveaway that we're doing, and we're giving away a Red Oak 2-player box set. And we're giving away to people that like, follow, or subscribe to one of our multiple medias we have, and we're going to throw names in a hat and pick one. So hopefully you guys did that, and we're going to go ahead and draw that a little bit later in the show and reveal who the winner is and give away a cool prize just for, listening and following and, enjoying the media that we're putting out. So you guys keep listening and stay tuned to the end of the show, and all will be revealed. You guys got anything else we want to banter about?
I got nothing.
Got nothing.
Well, I mean, not from an intro standpoint.
Not on the current topic.
So, Brian, you're not painting tonight. What are you working on?
I am building some Wave 2 Indians, Warrior Nation.
Warrior Nation, guys. Yeah, I mean, with we mentioned 1.09, hands have changed, so now we're gonna need a bunch more. I need to take stock of what kind of hands I have downstairs, but it's kind of hard to, because at GenCon I picked up. I mentioned I wanted to get the new Watcher posse, which I did, and I couldn't resist it. I got the Fire Eagle that hopefully I'm going to try and get it on video and do an unboxing of it to put on the YouTube channel for everybody to check out. And I've actually noticed on some of the Facebook groups and stuff, people are already starting to put some paint to it. And
yeah, someone just painted one of each.
I mean, did you see the one that's the Thunderbird? I don't remember the individual's name that painted it, but oh my god. I mean, the one thing I wasn't crazy about with the Thunderbird is that, and I think, Tom, you mentioned, he kind of looks like a buzzard, and that's just happens to be the paint style. That's the way that it got painted, and it looks like a buzzard. Well, this guy on Facebook blew me away with his black,
Oh yeah, no. So what the issue I saw was when all you were looking at is the 3D render, that just looked odd. Yeah. Right? The two heads, you're like, oh, I don't know about that. But dude, as soon as I saw one painted, even the studio one where they did a fairly straightforward buzzard vulture,
because they wanted it to look different from the eagle, which makes sense.
Right. So you got one that's fiery and reddish, and then you got one that's blue, a lot of blues because of the lightning breath from the Thunderbird. I love it. I like the contrast. I'm curious of so when you open the box, so I can't wait till you do an unboxing.
It's killing me right now.
Your shoulder, and go, hey, what's in the box? But so you get the box, and you basically have different heads and different breath weapon pillars. So you either going to do the flamey fire breath or the lightning fire breath, and I think they did a really good job. I mean, the two you see from the studio they're in completely different poses.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of flipping the wings. I think the wings are just flippable is all it is.
But to do that, and the way it looks, it almost looks like it's not random. It doesn't look like it was flipped. It looks like it was two separate models. I'm thinking, wow, they put two Fire Eagles. They put two of them in a box. That's why I'm thinking there are two of them in there. And
I thought the same thing.
I don't think there is. I think it's one in there. Right?
I think it's just the one that it's
have extra head and fire breath.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I think that when they're painted up too, they look much better. When we saw the 3D renders, one of my first comments was it looked like the Thunderbird was like choking on the lightning bolt, the way it was positioned. And Stuart was like, no, just wait until you actually see it. It looks really good.
Yeah.
And it really does.
Yeah. After seeing those in person at GenCon, I'm like, man, how am I going to pack these things? Because they are pretty impressive. They're going to be an impressive piece on the board, that's for sure.
Didn't someone say they stand at like 6.5 inches high or something?
Yeah. So it's like
it's gonna be fun to transport.
And they did bring up the point that they wish that they magnetized the wings so they could take them on and off for transportation, which is a great idea. I'll have to play with that once I find some time to actually get back to building and painting.
Someone had asked, how do I transport it? And I threw up the suggestion. There's a lot of videos and how-tos to create your own carry system. And one of the easiest ones, or the best ones, when you have large creatures that really don't lend themselves to be in foam because it just gobbles up too much space.
Yeah,
in
too much space.
Bag, is the plastic bins. And you basically hot glue a metal plate on the bottom of this bin, and you just magnetize you put magnets on the bottom of the bases, and you get plenty of room, and it's stationary enough that it doesn't slide around, and the wings don't flip onto things, it doesn't hit anything.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way. If you're going to go full into the Warrior Nation, you may want to invest in a little do-it-yourself.
Yeah, I mean that's the cheapest way to do it. There's plenty of companies that sell like the little cases that have the slide-out trays that are metal, but you're looking at over what, $150 or something for something like that, depending on the size you get. Your method is the cheap way.
Another thing you think about doing, because I did this originally for my Judgment before I had foam. I had an old camera case. Padded camera case, and you can get those in different sizes, and you can find some of them fairly cheaply, and you can probably get a size that it just slides right down into it.
Yeah.
So another little hack.
Yeah, there's a lot of different do-it-yourself type things that you can do out there. I mean, it's simply if you want to do like a search on Google or whatever, sometimes you can find some interesting ways that people have come up with transporting, like Brian said, those bigger models and stuff. And I like your idea, Brian. I might have to look at it, because those tubs, those little tubs that you can get at...
Well, there's all kinds of different sizes.
Yeah, and you can get them for fairly cheap. And then like the metal plates, you can get that stuff at Home Depot, Menards, any home store for really cheap. And it's easy enough to cut to the size you need with some metal clippers that you can get at the same store that you get that. And just hot glue it in there, and just remember, hot glue is hot, so be careful. Isn't that the tip that Matt gave us? That's going way back in our episodes. Oh man.
So another little segment that we're going to have going on. It's not really a segment, it's just something that's going to be running in the background in an attempt to get me actually doing things again. Brian has given me inducements. So what's going to be going on now is every time we record...
Some of our listeners probably need to know what that word means.
Including me and you?
All right. Brian's been me.
Inducements? I don't think I ever said that word. I'm not agreeing to that.
Brian's bribing me. So every time we record an episode, I have to set up a camera to show that I'm actually doing it. I have to do something hobby related, either assembling models, painting models, terrain, basing, something game related. And while doing so, I've shipped off some of my models to Brian. They should be getting there any day now.
Pony Express, right?
Yes. Well, that's the problem. Between the ponies and the carrier pigeons, it can take a while. But while I work on things, he will be actually working on doing some painting for me of my Infernal Investigation posse. And basically the rules are he will only work on them as long as I'm working on something. So, be starting out with, I just picked up, the No Surrender posse to finish filling out the union that I already have. And we'll be putting together a union list. I'm going to float one out there to Brian and Eric, and between the three of us, we're going to refine it into a real list. And then we'll put the units out to vote for what order they should get painted in and done in. And we'll video the whole thing up and throw it up on YouTube. And it's just something that's going to be floating along behind the scenes while we're recording.
So this is
right.
Tom's hobby challenge.
The goal is we'll have this video, and then what will happen is if something while we're doing the podcast comes up as a way of coaching Tom, you won't notice that in the podcast because we won't use that audio for the podcast, but we will use, we'll pause and then segue for our own use into tips and stuff, for Tom.
Just general banter. Just general banter between the three of us.
While he's painting his union, if there's something comes up and we're talking about maybe doing object source lighting, then I will, I'll be recording what I'm doing, but then I can coach him through how to do it or suggestions and tips, and then we'll share them in YouTube video of those little nuggets of us discussing what Tom is doing and maybe tips on how to and do what he's doing.
Do it better.
Do it better, damn it.
That's not what I said.
No, but really the idea of that is we can have a side-by-side, almost live video coaching, pull out video.
Kind of like a painting session.
As I run into problems, because, I'm not terrible. I mean, let me just float this out there right now. I'm not terrible. I have been doing this a while. But I still, I'm at a basic base coat, put a wash over it, dry brush and highlight, and I'm out.
Yeah. Well, so much of it sometimes for anybody too is it's a time factor. Do I have time to put into this hobby? Some people only get maybe where they can sit down a half hour and do a little bit of painting. Some people either have more time or maybe they work faster. There's a number of factors.
Or like me, I take my time and I like picking up skills from various, guys better than me, like watching Daz's dailies, Angel.
Angel. Yep, Geraldo.
Or I look at some of his things.
I tried watching his videos, but I don't understand them because he's speaking in his native language, unfortunately, for me.
It's hard. You want to see what he's doing, but then you have to also read what he's doing.
Yeah.
So you have to go back and forth between knowing what he's saying and seeing what he's actually doing. But his videos are actually really good.
Yeah.
There's Ben. I can't remember his last name. I've watched a lot of his things. He's really remarkable on doing using washes and shades. Just he does some amazing things with them. But so I pick up here and there how to do stuff, and so as we hit those type of things that people would maybe want to see, who knows? That's when we'll save that video so we can put it up on YouTube. So you all
maybe find something helpful in it.
Yep.
Or
and you'll. And you'll see a little, two different kind of points of view. Brian's a more advanced painter. I'm more of a basic painter. So you can kind of see, what kind of results you get from, you'll see a side by side of some of those results, I guess.
So I'm to make a comparison. the Brian's the Windsor Newton, and you're the roll-on brush.
Pretty much, you know. Come on, I'm the brush that comes in the pack of hobby paints.
Yeah, the sponge brush. Anyway, hopefully, like we mentioned, you guys will find this somewhat interesting and find some use of it. It's something that Tom came up that he thought, hey, he had an idea, and let's try it. Let's see where it goes. So.
Yep. So ultimately, it's to get my button gear.
Yeah.
Incentivize or giving him an incentive to get some of his stuff done, and I'll get to paint another investigation.
Another Jed.
It'd be like your third, fourth Jed that you get to do.
It'll be my third. It'll be my fourth Jed because I painted the original Jed. He's already on the field getting used. But then I'm still work in progress on a converted Jed. So he's my melee Jed. He's got two batons in his hands instead of a pistol, and then of course a legendary Jed rig.
Well, and you still got to work on the 2020 with the Yoda Jed in his backpack too, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's got to happen.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's needed anymore.
I still think it has to happen.
Oh yeah.
You know what? Grumpy Bear wasn't needed either. I still did it.
Yeah, but the context is all wrong.
All right, we kind of babbled enough for our intro today. Why don't we go ahead and move out of this and go into some of our first segments for today's show. Do-do-do.
Let's do it.
Go ahead, skin it. Skin that smoke wagon and see what happens.
Listen, mister, I'm getting awful tired of your...
I'm getting tired of your gas. Now jerk that pistol and go to work. I said throw down, boy.
All right, let's go. All right, here's a new segment for everybody at the Blackhoof Saloon that we're going to start now, and hopefully you guys will like it. It's going to require some feedback afterwards. I think Tom said we're going to put up some polls, so let's get started. So the new segment's going to be called the Smoke-Wagon Showdown, and what we're going to do is we're going to bring it. Is that it?
Yeah, you're right. Smoke-Wagon Showdown.
And so this segment will be basically a boss-to-boss comparison. And once we get through with all the bosses, there's quite a few out there in Wild West Exodus right now. So we're going to compare two bosses. We're going to try to go with theme pair-ups, and it wouldn't be right for the first segment of our Smoke-Wagon Showdown not to include Wyatt Earp and Jesse James.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, these guys were kind of like a big introduction to everybody into the game with that 2-player starter set is those two guys. And I mean, they're legendary characters,
Right.
Well, no, these are their regular ones.
Well, they're regular.
Well, maybe that'll be the next time we see these two models in the showdown. It'll be their legendary version.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, like Brian was saying, what we want to do is kind of just pit these two characters, these big, larger-than-life characters in Wild West Exodus in a showdown. And kind of what we're going to do is look at each character, kind of go over, their abilities, whether it's offensive or defensive. What else did we want to look at, Brian, with these guys, besides just their abilities and their special rules? Yeah,
so we're going to compare their cards. We're going to compare their themes, and we'll just, like, as a group, just chat about different ways to play them, what to do if, like, you're starting their posse off and you hit a roadblock. What are some things to add?
Yeah, what do I bring?
That make the boss work better. Maybe some good team ups that you may not have thought of. You know, a way of basically giving you guys like a how-to brief guide on the two bosses that we discussed, right? And you know, over the next few episodes, you'll start get the hang of how where we're going to go. Hey, you may even help guide us to polishing up this segment. But it's basically a way of look forward to seeing how we discuss maybe your favorite boss, or maybe we can give you an insight on a boss that you're playing you never even considered yet.
Yeah. All right, so which one do we want to start with? You want to start with Wyatt, since we heard him intro our new segment?
Well, you know, that seems like a logical start.
Yeah, let's go ahead and start with his BA. So, we got Wyatt Earp, who, when I think of the Lawman faction, he's kind of the first guy that I think of as a go-to for a boss when picking a boss. And so let's see, let's look at his stats. You know, he's a character that comes with 3 fortune, so he has plenty of fortune to work with. His stats, he's at a 5 for speed, and his mind is 6, so it's reasonably well. And then he's got an aim of 6. Let's see what else he's got. He's got a grit of 6. His fight is the highest stat he has, so it's a fight of 7, which I always thought was kind of weird with, you know, you think about their weapons and stuff. I mean, his go-to weapon is his Magnum, his Peacemaker. You know, that's kind of a big thing with, like, the character, and just historically was his big-ass cannon that he had, you know?
Yeah, but if you look into history about Wyatt Earp, the funny thing is he wasn't like a shoot all the time.
He was about
more known for clubbing somebody with his pistol than actually shooting them, because he was all about keeping the peace, and he didn't have to shoot a lot of guys. You know, I know he's known for the OK Corral, but most of the time he solved whatever blowback was happening in town by clubbing them with a pistol. You know, and he would take that long Peacemaker and just thump them on the head, and that was all he really. Well,
you know what? If you look at it that way, a fight of 7 actually does make sense then.
You know, I always thought it was apropos. You know, it was like he's got an Aspeton, he's got the shield. You know, having him be really good at his option, right?
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of people rushing him in for hand to hand.
No.
But it is, like I said, it's one of those things you might not have considered. I mean, fight 7 is really good. So if someone does come up, get too close, he's
get
got
all in his
really
face.
good options to stand him up.
And then to finish him off, he's got a limit of 3, so he can do 3 actions per activation. So go ahead, Tom, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say that I thought I had read or heard somewhere that prior to the OK Corral, he had actually only killed 1 person ever before that. So, don't know if that's true, false, but I seem to recall hearing or reading that somewhere.
So,
right.
So it kind of sounds like
people.
So just looking at the stats in a way, and like what you were saying, Brian, and we were talking about how we wanted to kind of separate these guys from offense, defense. He's almost like he's a defensive guy who it seems like you would use to basically capture objective points maybe. And then if somebody did get in his face, well, he's got the power to kind of put them down.
Right. And also consider close work with the Magnum Peacemaker. You use the fight stat.
Yeah. That's true.
So he's on a much better position with the negatives from close work to still get off a pretty good shot.
Yeah, and just that weapon itself. So, you mentioned revolver fan, close work. It also has shred, so it'll go through any kind of cover somebody's getting from, say, a fence, a barrel, some small terrain. And then with the new rules, he's got the fatal on the crit. And as a reminder, everybody, fatal is basically it goes through metal, right, Brian?
Right. So in card update 1.09, Pierce 4 weapons don't ignore the defensive skills that were in 1.08. So typically metal and tough, you couldn't use those because of a Pierce 4 or higher weapon. Well, now they got rid of that, so you'll have some Pierce 4 weapons that don't have fatal, right?
Yeah.
So they're just a regular Pierce 4, but those weapons that they still wanted that
punch,
huge risk of getting shot by,
yeah,
such as Wyatt Earp's Magnum Peacemakers, they picked up the crit of fatal, thus giving them back the ignore metal.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So the weapon still now is very deadly to somebody who only has metal for defense, on those crits.
All right, then what else does he have? So he's got quite a few options for weapons. Like you mentioned, he's got the ass baton for stunning somebody or parry, and that's a melee weapon. And then you also mentioned his shield, which also has parry. The last weapon he has that's a ranged weapon is he's got his shotgun that actually is a torrent template. So if you're still far enough away that you can do a shoot action, and say it's like a unit of hands, you use that shotgun, you can catch a couple guys in that blast, which is nice. So he's got a ton of options on him.
Right. So yeah, I think the shotgun is probably underutilized by a lot of guys because his pistol is so good, but you can't ignore the fact that depending on what comes in at him or what you send him to take care of, the shotgun does have quite a bit of versatility.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if it had a little more flashier, specials and maybe a crit bonus.
Yeah.
But I just think the utility of it being a torrent does gain quite a few things.
Yeah, just being the torrent, I think, is something to think about because torrent will go through a lot of defensive type things that another unit might have. So it's like we said, he does have a lot of options based on you got to look at what's coming at him. So, do we want to go over maybe any of his special rules? He's got.
Of course. So why don't we start with the first things that would affect using him in game?
Okay.
Right. He's a boss. He has the trait boss, lawman, human, male, martial, and tombstone.
Okay.
So those traits can trigger different special abilities, in the game. So you always want to take care and make sure you check those before a game starts, especially if you're going up against, a hex group, maybe the Watchers, because of some of their special abilities, those will come into play.
Yeah.
Also, especially with male, when you have For the Boys is a special ability, obviously keeping that in mind, if you have one of the, the faces that has For the Boys, hey, you can give that model their bonus if you make sure that your male, character is nearby,
Yeah, definitely.
You jump over to the common rules. Obviously he's a named character. He can only have one in the force. He's got the common rules of metal, quick and the dead, largesse, target priority, durable, and teamwork. If you don't know what any of those mean, we did a full episode on common rules where we went through every one of them. So they're all in that video. So just go on, check out that episode.
Nice plug.
I replugged ourselves.
Yeah, and a lot of these abilities will show up on a lot of, these are very they're common abilities. So you'll see them on all the bosses. Some of the faces will have these, and actually within the faction, you'll see a lot of these repeat too. So what was the one? Teamwork. So you'll see teamwork actually show up here and there in the lawmen. So
right, and of course most bosses have largesse. There's a couple that don't, and it kind of plays in with their theme. Metal is a very common defensive ability. Most people who played any game or even read the rule books knows that gives you, when you take a wound, you can use metal to go disordered instead of being wounded and leaving the game.
Yeah.
So it allows you to stay in a little longer. Quick in the Dead allows you to, roll a quick check. If you succeed, you ignore the combat action that comes at you. There's a little funny business when someone's shooting you with a mass fire. So Quick in the Dead is a little bit different because depending on how well you rolled your quick check, that's how many of the ROA from the mass fire is going to be deleted.
Yeah.
So roll high. All right. So Wyatt he has quite a few special rules, although he does pick up some more when he goes into his legendary form. So the first one on the list is Tin Man. This is going to be on quite a few of the, the lawman models, and this basically the unit gains +1 grit while he is within 6 inches of a friendly marshal or sheriff unit. Does not include themselves. This unit may also use mind attribute of any friendly marshal within line of sight of this unit for yeller checks. Now, this really isn't going to help Wyatt. I don't think he ever needs to roll a yeller check, but it when you think of their hand units will pick up this ability, and then they obviously all they have to do is be in line of sight of a marshal or a sheriff nearby, and actually marshal nearby. Line of sight, the marshal will give them their mind check so much above a big boost for a hands unit.
Yeah.
So you see how this ability specifically triggers traits, right? So remember we talked about what Wyatt's traits were, and one of them was that he was a marshal. So when you're building your posse, you're definitely going to want to pay attention to those traits, right?
Yeah.
So most of your models are going to have Tin Man. Well, you may want to make sure you have a couple of options for marshal and sheriffs in your posse.
Yeah.
Because that helps them trigger their grit bonuses.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about as you're building. You're going to want to make sure you're loading up on sheriff and marshals. The next ability is, again, another lawman-heavy ability. It's called Dead or Alive, and that is when engaged with a stun or disordered enemy model, this unit gains the lethal weapon quality on all melee weapons. And everyone, lethal is a weapon ability that basically makes them re-roll successful grit checks. So it's very, very useful. So if you think back on the weapons he's carrying, he carries an iron ass baton, which has parry and stun as weapon qualities. So when Wyatt is battling against some melee guys, he can hit them with the baton, and the first strike they succeed in passing their grit check, throws stun on that model. Well, now the next time he hits that model, that attack is going to be lethal, right? So, and of course, then when you consider when you're building your posse, most of your lawmen also are going to be carrying Dead or Alive.
Yeah.
And they all pretty much are also carrying ass batons. So be thinking of how can I put stun on the models out in the field, and then I can follow up with the melee, lethal attack. So consider those type of things as you're playing the board, because those things come up. So if you think of some other team ups that Wyatt would have, like his theme posse, the Tombstone posse, bringing Morgan Earp, who has a stun rifle, obviously putting the stun out there ahead of engagement of a melee sets up your melee, faces or melee boss to get up there and actually throw more risk with lethal hits because you've already put stun on these guys.
Yeah, I'm just looking real quick through like the 2-player box set, the different units that are in there, or like the hands units, and just about every single one of them has at least one weapon that has stun on it.
So here's a rules question for you. If you're using his Peacemaker using close work, does that count as a melee weapon? Does that get the lethal quality?
I do believe it does, actually.
I think it would, yeah.
Because you're using them.
The fastest way is to check the wording of close work, and if it says that it is considered a melee weapon, then yes, it would.
Here, I got stat cards. Close work. That's a weapon. Blast beacon. Close work. Ranged weapon may be used. May be used as a melee weapon in a strike action using the model's fight attribute rather than using aim. If used as a melee weapon, then for the remainder of the turn, the weapon has a melee range of 2, and when used in a strike action, it suffers a -3 penalty to the fight check.
Sounds like a melee weapon to me.
Yeah.
Yep, it becomes a melee weapon.
So that goes back to the point you brought up earlier, that with his high fight score and using close work, that becomes even more nasty.
Yep. shoot you in your face. Re-roll that grit check, please.
All right, so then he also has the next one on his card is Form Up on Me. So Form Up is, I gotta move my mic a little bit because I cannot read these cards, my old eyes. So Form Up on Me. After both sides have deployed this unit and a hands unit within 3 inches of him, gain the Trail Finder special rule. So that's kind of nice that after everybody's set up, he can kind of adjust where he starts. You kind of get that little sneak peek. And then, of course, he brings his backup with him.
Right. So correct me if I'm wrong. His Tombstone posse does not have does he have hands options in that posse?
Let's see. The Lawman posse. I don't remember hands being in there, though.
I didn't print out the theme cards.
It's hard to say because I've disregarded that posse largely because it hasn't been released yet. And so there's parts of it that are actually hard to construct because of that.
Right.
I mean, the generic Lawman posse, there's a lot of hand units in the slots.
Right, but my whole goal of bringing it up is in the event that you're building your posse one way or the other. It's something to consider. So let me look it up.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to play this again.
Go ahead, skin it. Skin that Smoke-Wagon and see what happens.
Did it!
Listen, mister, I'm getting awful tired of your shit.
I'm getting tired of your gas. Now jerk that pistol and go to work.
Go to work.
I said throw down, boy.
I love how he's just slapping him. Okay. What'd you get, Brian?
All right. So slot 4 is where you get the first mention of hands unit, and it's a lawman face and or lawman hands unit.
Okay, and that's the Tombstone list you mentioned?
Yeah, it's Tombstone theme posse. So the first slot is lawman unit with the Tombstones trait. Then number 2 is a lawman unit with the Tombstones trait. And then the third one is lawman unit with a Tombstones trait. And then slot 4 is a lawman face and / or lawman hands unit.
Okay.
So you can actually pick up a face and a hands unit, or one of either one. Then slot 5 is a unit with the Tombstone trait, in parentheses, even a boss, or lawman hands unit.
Okay.
And then the 6th one is a lawman face unit and or a lawman support unit.
Okay.
So you technically, in his theme, can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units.
It's quite a bit.
Because slot 4 and 6 allow you to double up if you want.
Yeah.
But it does allow you to bring in at least 2 hands units so you can team them up with Wyatt.
Okay.
Another option, obviously, if you're thinking of playing up on his ability to move hands unit up with Trailfinder, it doesn't say in his posse.
So you could do the double boss list, and it could be
bring somebody else
hands in a duff.
Heavy.
Okay.
Right. And then you don't have to go that deep into his theme posse just to be able to bring the hands. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have someone else bring in a generic hands or generic lawman posse and bring up hands that way.
Yeah. Which almost,
and
I think, every
thinking the type of hands. So one option is to team him up with Bass Reeves, and Bass Reeves could be bringing some of the Warrior Nation Braves hands, and if Wyatt can actually Trailfinder those guys.
Oh my God!
Right, so you gotta thinking about those type of things as you're doing your posse build.
Yeah. Think a little bit of outside the box, outside of the typical lawman faction.
You're a bad man.
Well, or there could be other ways to team that up as well. But I think that's a neat kind of idea, is when some of the theme posses allow you definitely to bridge these gaps and bring 2 factions together that wouldn't normally operate together. Like on Facebook today, I was talking to someone had asked a question about, hey, what should I bring with my Secret Service posse I just got? And of course, my suggestion was, drum roll, come on, the Infernal Investigations posse.
Yeah.
His reply was, "They can join my union." I was like, and so I, he's a new player, so I was like, yeah, make sure you check the theme posse cards because it kind of gives you options when you're playing your themes to actually team them up with different allies that you wouldn't normally get to team up with. And so it was just kind of funny. He was like, "What? That's awesome!"
All right, so the last thing Wyatt has is a defensive special ability called Bunker. And the way this works is, so if after Wyatt activates, provided that he does not make a move action, he ends up getting a +1 grit for the remainder of that turn. So it's kind of like you look at his model, he's kneeling down, and he's got that riot shield. He's taking a defensive move. I don't know how many times I faced him, and that thing is just, he gets out there and he just kind of digs in. And, I mean, his grit is 6. It goes up to 7. That's pretty good for a grit. He can just kind of sit there and...
But as long as you have a friendly marshal or sheriff nearby, 6 inches, that's a pretty good gap.
Yeah.
He's 8.
Yeah, that's true.
So, he can grit up to 8 in the middle of the board as long as there's somebody close by that triggers Tin Man,
Which is actually a strategy I like to do with my bosses. You look at abilities like that and you just kind of have, give them some backup to hang around. Like a big thing I like doing is take one for the team. When you got a bunch of really cheap hands guys around your boss, somebody shoots at your boss, he can just nominate one of his, his underlings to say, "Hey, dude, you got to take the shot for me, man."
Right. And you also need to consider there's bosses sometimes have abilities that trigger depending on who's nearby.
Yeah.
Right. Like Wyatt obviously has Tin Man. He's got, form up on me. He's got teamwork. I mean, all of those are things you have to consider when you're building that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
One of Wyatt's other defensive abilities is durable. It's in his common rules, right?
Yeah, that's
so
right.
Remember, you're ignoring one point of pierce. So technically, his grit's 7.
Yeah. And, you look at what the piercing of the majority of characters are out there are like 2 or 3. So if they're losing a piercing right off the bat because of durable, it's going to be tough to get him off the board.
Think about it. Do the math. It's grit 9.
Yeah.
He's basically grit 9ing up. And that is hard when he bunkers, right? So you definitely, if you're fighting against Wyatt, you want him moving.
Yeah. Yeah, make him come to you.
You get him to move just outside of 6 inches from the nearest marshal or sheriff, because then you've taken away his extra special defensive abilities. He's still going to have the 1 point of durable, but grit 6 with durable is just a little easier to crack.
Yeah.
But man, when he's bunkered near another marshal or sheriff, and the tombstone posse is going to give him those marshals and sheriffs.
Yeah.
That's so you're going to be like, you're
very.
You're going to have to take out his whole posse before he's not going to get this Tin Man bonus.
Yeah, very frustrating, but also fun in the same sense if you're playing them.
You're going to have to do it.
All right, well, that was Wyatt, so why don't we go on the other side of the street in our showdown and look at Jesse. And Jesse James is I always consider him like the main boss of the Outlaws. Since day one that I got into the game, he was like the boss for the Outlaws. You always saw him featured. I mean, granted, there's other historical bosses in the faction.
Yeah, but he was the poster boy for Wild West Exodus.
He was.
It was him and Grant were the two poster boys, and I think of him as the main character of Wild West Exodus.
Well, and it's funny too because in a lot of the fluff, he's not a very nice guy, but he's not also the bad guy. So he's got his agenda. So I think that's kind of like what attracted me to him as a character. But so let's go ahead and dive into Jesse a little bit. So as I said, Jesse's one of the bosses from the Outlaw. So we'll go over his stats real quick. He's got a fortune of 3, very similar to what Wyatt had. He's got a quickness of 6. His mind is 6. His aim is actually 7, so he's a little bit more of a shooter. Grit 6, fight 6, and then he also has a limit of 3. So you look at both these characters, their stats are very even keel. I mean, it's a little bit of what was behind and putting these two guys in that 2-player starter is to, have a real fair balance of factions in there for people starting. And he's still...
it was just Wyatt and Jesse.
It was just those two?
Right. So, I mean, some of the things to consider, Wyatt Earp is 180 points,
yep.
Right? And Jesse James is 155.
So he's cheaper.
So Jesse's a little bit cheaper. That by no means is that because Jesse's not a good boss.
No.
But a lot of that also has to do with balancing the faction. Right?
Yeah.
So some of the things that Wyatt brings to the table, his Pierce 4 is fatal. Jesse, as when we get into his Hyper V pistols, they're Pierce 4 without fatal. Right?
Yeah.
So you can see that comparison right there. You see that he doesn't have quite the lethality with his gun as picking up that ignore metal. So
yeah.
Some things to consider. So why don't we do the weapons now?
Okay.
He's got 2 on his card. The first one is a melee option. It's bionic arms, right? This iconic figure, right? Since the first Kickstarter.
It's going to punch you in the face.
Arms. And you mentioned the fluff. In the fluff, he went up. He ran into one of the earliest, spirit-infused spirit walkers, and a bear ripped his arms off.
It wasn't Grumpy Bear, was it?
Tom. Talking to his book, I'm not really sure he's going to do an intro after losing his arms, right? It's like, he ran into this bear, ripped his arms off. I'm not sure afterwards they had tea and said, hey, so what's your name?
I always got the impression that it was a different bear, though, than Grumpy Bear.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. It didn't sound like it was this big epic thing because it was early in Jesse's orneriness as an outlaw, but it was. It was definitely foretold it was going to be Grumpy Bear, but so bionic arms changed a bit in the new 1.09 and picked up a crit of brutal.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, his 2 arms got a little bit better now because he gets credit for having 2. So you got the little S on the end, and that picks up his ROA to 2. They're Pierce 1 with the crit of brutal. The possibility both times you're going to have 3 hits for someone to survive, and that's much better.
That's basically
pretty decent as well.
Yeah. I mean, if you focus this fight, you're focusing it up to an 8. That's nothing to shy away from. And
I'm really glad that they acknowledge that he has 2 arms. Sometimes there's some strange things that go on sometimes.
Right. Some of the models that you can clearly see they have 2 metal arms only get credit for being able to use 1 offensively. So that's why ways.
Well, I look at it like he's kind of he's dropping the haymaker,
right?
Or like with Jesse, he's got the brutal. So I mean, if he's landing that brutal, he's not only hitting you hard, he's lifting you up off the ground.
Right. He hit you so hard you felt it twice. So his iconic pistols, we're going to go there, are the Hyper V pistols. Again, he's got 1 in each hand, so he picks up the ROA of 2. These pistols have revolver fan, which we know doubles the ROA, with a minor penalty to the aim roll. They have close work, which again, if you're engaged with someone, you can use your fight, which is a 6. It's still a pretty good fight.
Yeah.
And he can use the pistols as a melee weapon. His guns also gain shred, just like the Magnum Peacemakers do. So he's ignoring the first obscure bonus that your target's going to get. On a crit, his guns are lethal. So it makes them re-roll that grit save. So range of 10, little less range than the Magnum Peacemakers, but he's coming in at a Pierce 4, which even without the ignoring a bunch of the defensive abilities. Really a really good, effective weapon.
Yeah.
Especially when you include all the other things that we're about to jump into when we get to special abilities.
Okay, well, let's go over his common rules real quick. Very similar to Wyatt's.
Right. We're gonna do traits first. His traits.
Oh yeah, let's do traits first. I'm jumping the gun.
He's obviously a boss. He's outlaw, male, human. He picks up his mercenary tag. He's got Confederate. He's got Quantrell Raiders, and dun dun dun, he's tainted.
Yeah, that's new.
Right. So what tainted does, it actually triggers a new sub rule that's in the book. And when he dies, there's a taint roll that you have to roll to see what happens to him. Is he so far gone in being tainted by the evil influence in his life that is he reborn as a hex beast under your control, or a hex beast under the control of your opponent, or did you just get back up?
Yeah.
Obviously, most of us want him just to get back up as Jesse and
keep going. Get up and be like, I'm Jesse James.
So if you have any of your favorite models and they happen to be tainted, definitely pick up a box of the Hex Beast models. They're really wicked, especially if you are an avid painter, because I love when people post pictures of their tainteds, because they're always a little bit different than the last guy. Yeah. And they're all really good, Like some guy did a lot of green. I was like, that's cool. Some guy did a lot of fleshy color and, drippy ooze. And it's like every time it's like, that's wicked cool. All right. So you were going to go into the common rules. Let's hit them.
All right. Common rules, like I said, is very similar to Wyatt. Most of the bosses' faces you'll see these repeated. So once again, he's unique. He's a name model, so you can only have one in your posse. This unit also has metal. He has Quicken the Dead, largesse, and he has target priority also.
Right. So the big differences are the durable and teamwork that Wyatt has.
Yeah.
Jesse does.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, that kind of goes, like Wyatt has it kind of goes a little more with the lawman theme and their posse themes and stuff like that.
So what really separates the two models are these special rules, right? You got Quick Draw is the first one, and this is the special ability where once per activation, this unit successfully hits with a shoot action. It may make a second shoot action at the same or a different target for one action point rather than usual two. So, as you know, anytime you do the same action the second time, it's typically at a 2-point, action point cost. This gives him that second ability to just do it with one action point. Definitely helps.
Makes him more efficient, and in managing your action point pool.
Right. It really just basically says this guy is a really good shootist, and it gives him the ability to really just get more shots off in an activation than most other shooting models.
Yeah.
Such as Wyatt. Wyatt is a good shooter. He's got one of the best guns in the game, but he's not shooting as many rounds. It's going to cost him more action points to do those actions.
Yep.
So
Wyatt's not a gunfighter, and Jesse James is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So the next part of Quick Draw is the second shoot action may not be made with weapons with the heavier complex qualities. Doesn't really come to play with Jesse James because he doesn't have any one of those. So, I think that's it. Anything else to add with Quick Draw?
No, it's a pretty straightforward special rule. You'll see that kind of pop up in some of the other mercenary models that are in the Outlaws, because there's a lot of gunfighters, so it's kind of their thing.
Right. And we'll get this another gunfightery ability in the next one. One thing to remember, after he's shot twice, right, and those both shots were, as long as he succeeds with one of the shots in the first one, he can do the second one for one action point. The third time he shoots, which he has a limit of 3, so he can shoot that third time. Third time is at the normal 2 action points.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
In a way, it's a way that you can make him shoot 3 times and not have it cost, so much.
It won't cost you 5 points. It's only going to cost you 4.
Yeah, yeah.
So the next ability is Split Shot. So Split Shot in 1.08 was part of the Gunslinger rule.
Yeah.
Right. So they kind of one of the things that they tweaked about was they pulled off this. It's called split shot. It was part of being able to target different models. So this unit may target different units with each die from their weapon's rate of attack in a shoot action rather than having to resolve them against a single target unit. This unit does not need to spend an action point to use the revolver fan quality.
Okay. So that's kind of, yeah.
What is Jesse James good at? Shooting his pistols. Well, he's actually really good at doing revolver fan. So revolver fan, you can only do it once in activation. So one of the times that Jesse can shoot, literally, you should always at least once get off a revolver fan.
Yeah.
You know, you could do it as your first attack. It's only going to cost you one action point, and you're going to be able to shoot down the ROA of 4. Go ahead and use another, use a fortune, focus that thing.
Yeah. Make his aim 9. I think he's going to hit.
Well, it won't be 9 because you got the penalty from using.
Revolver fan penalty.
It's gonna get rid of most of that penalty. You're gonna get that shot. It's gonna be a good shot, right?
Yeah.
And then follow up with just some regular ROA 2 shots. And I mean, it's just, you should do it, right? If you forget that he has split shot and can ignore that action point to use revolver fan, shame on you. You should be doing it every activation, right? If you got to move first time you shoot, revolver fan, focus that shot, get those four rounds down the field, right?
Yeah.
It really is what separates him from a lot of other gunslingers, right? He's got both quick draw and split shot. It's a very deadly combination. There's a few others who have it that way, but some only get one or the other.
Yeah. I mean, him being the boss, it makes sense. He's more skilled.
Right. So his next ability, one of my favorite.
Yeah, I love doing this.
People get to use it, and this is also an ability that is in good combo with some other special abilities that Jesse doesn't have, but some of his mercenaries may have.
Yeah.
So, and we'll talk about that. So Gambler is when he activates, this unit may discard the action card that you drew before you picked him and draw a new card. Now, if the new card, right, you have to use the new card, and it is used immediately, right? And you can't then turn around and say, oh, I'm going to pick a different guy, because you already chose to use.
He's already nominated.
You're using the new card. The unit ignores their action limit for this activation.
Yeah.
So if this happens, the 3 limit is gone, right? If you have enough resources in action card or action deck, so if you have the new card is a good one, like a 4 or a 5.
Yeah.
You have a couple of adventure cards with some action points on them.
+2.
And you have 3 fortune and maybe a renew your fortune card.
Yeah.
You can run with Jesse.
I've seen that combo once, and it's
scary.
Deadly. Deadly. I mean, Jesse taking out like a quarter of a posse because of something like this.
This ability seems too good to be true, right? I mean, that is really, really big, huge gamble, right? That's kind of why it's called gamble, because there's a negative side to this ability. If the new card is equal to or lower than the original action card, then they receive the stun condition.
Yeah. And then they're done. They don't get to do anything.
No, they literally are like, boo. Now,
all right, so what guys can you put with him that lets you look at your deck and reorder the cards or let you know what's coming up?
Right. So the key is the reordering of cards. So you want to look for your treasure hunter.
Yep.
Because it gives you an extra card, right? Then you want to look at your tactical brilliance. That's the key, is making sure you never waste the gambler, right?
Yeah.
This tactical brilliance allows you to look at the top 3 cards of the action deck or the adventure deck. Obviously, you would want to use it on the action deck. And then you make sure you set up that 1. If you see, hey, I got, of the 3 cards, I got a 1 and I got a 4, then obviously you want to put the 1 so Jesse can draw that as his first card, right?
Yep.
And then he can activate Gambler. The next card, you set it up because you get to put them in the order you want, and boom, you automatically get rid of this negative, right?
Yep.
So another useful is Shrewd Strategist. Allows you to look at the top card
That's what I was
So
just
those
reading.
are the two feats you're looking for, right? You want to have either tactical brilliance in the group, or you want to have a shrewd strategist. And shrewd strategist is not as powerful as tactical brilliance, but it allows you to look at the top card, so you can like test the waters, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it costs an action point, but you can look at it and be like, no, that's too high because I want to activate him, so you can kind of pitch it.
That's right. So obviously, if you look and it's a 1, you don't want to get rid of it. Normally, you use it as a way of burning off the crap card. You open it up, and it's a 2. You're like,
that'd probably be the only time, if as long as Jesse's ready to be activated, you draw that 1, and you'd be like, ooh.
Right, and then you're like, game is afoot. So Gambler is so good, and it's like when you play a Gambler often, like it's part of your regular force. That is the true epic story you're telling everyone.
Yeah.
If you get it off and you get at least 4 actions out of your Gambler, you're telling everybody, right? Oh, it's awesome. I got the Gambler. It worked. And man, I ran it up, and I went 5, 6 actions. You're telling everybody, right?
Well, what I like about it is it's a nice way, and I know I've mentioned this before, I like these abilities that basically, even if you don't kind of take those peeks at it, and you do that gamble, you take that chance, and you flip over that card, and it's that 1, it's a good way to mitigate those bad card draws. It's one of those abilities that's just very popular with me when I'm playing.
Okay, so his last ability is Dying Breath. Should this unit be destroyed, but not if otherwise removed from play. So there's some things that, if you get removed from play, but you weren't actually destroyed by taking a wound.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't. But if you are destroyed, it can make a free combat action before being removed from the play area. This also happens before the taint roll.
Yeah.
Right? So it's very good. You take his wound and he's dying, and then he could still do a double-barreled blast in your face before he goes.
Yep, one last shot.
One thing to remember, he's usually dying not during his activation. So the free revolver fan is back in play.
Yep. Oh, that could be real nasty. Nasty.
A question for you, and this is one I'm not clear on. When you make that Hex Beast roll, because you're tainted, are you allowed to use any of your fortune on that, or are you beyond using your fortune? Is that still in play?
I believe it is.
Because you can last laugh and then possibly, try to influence your roll to come back again, and then last again. Last again.
It's Dying Breath.
So, sorry.
He's laughing while he does it.
Definitely get a last laugh if he does bounce back and be whole again. So let me look it up. We'll edit this blank here.
Yeah.
All right. Units with the taint trait are referred to as tainted. Should the last model in a tainted unit fail their grit check and be destroyed before you remove the model from play area, make a taint check. So it's D10 plus mind. You want 10 or higher. If the taint check is failed, the model is destroyed as normal. If a taint, okay, so I'm already into the thing. It does not say anything about no using your fortune. So if you got it,
yeah.
And it's before you're removed from the table. So it sounds like that's still in play.
Right, but the Dying Breath would happen before the taint.
Yep.
And then the taint check, obviously, if the taint check is failed, the model is destroyed as normal. If the taint check is passed, the model is replaced with a single model Hex Beast unit. The first time it is activated, Hex Beast counts as having made a reserve action for that turn. As a Hex Beast has a limit of 1, it will not be able to take any further actions unless the controlling player has any adventure cards in their hand that increases the unit's limit. The Hex Beast may then act normally from the following turn. If a Hex Beast model is not available, or if the taint model was already a Hex Beast, or has the reanimated rule, the model is removed from play. So you're going to want the Hex Beast model.
Yeah.
Because if you ain't got one, he ain't tainted. But he can still come back, right? So obviously, on the next spot is on a critical success, the model is not replaced with a hex beast, and instead counts as having passed his grit check.
Yep.
So you still make the taint check, because if you crit save,
it's like you passed the grit. So it's kind of like a second chance at the grit check.
Right. So obviously, you do still make the roll. It's just if you succeed in the taint check, you can't be a hex beast because you don't have a model with you. Roll on a crit fail. The model is replaced with a hex beast as outlined above. However, the hex beast is under the control of your opponent.
That would be very nasty if he's surrounded by a bunch of, hands or other buddies. Granted, he can't activate yet, but...
Right. So there you have it. Jesse James, good combo.
Yeah.
Some of the things, I guess, let me pull up his theme card. We'll talk about his theme.
Let's see. So he's got... so the Outlaw... Where's his theme? So Honor Among Thieves theme posse.
Right. So he could take his theme to Hex and Enlightened Forces, in addition to an Outlaw Force. If all the slots are filled with one or more units in the posse, Jesse James and all faces in the posse gain Prodigious.
Prodigious.
Yeah, we're getting pretty good at saying that, Brian. Prodigious.
Yeah. You were nervous before you said it.
Yeah, I was a little bit. I had to think about it. Am I going to screw this up or what?
All right. So the way his posse runs, obviously you bring Jesse. You have to make a decision. Hey, do I want to do an outlaw theme, or do I want to jump into Honor Among Thieves? His first slot, if you decide to go into the Honor, is Frank James or an Outlaw Mercenary Hands.
A lot of mercenaries.
So there's slot 2, an Outlaw Mercenary Hands or an Outlaw Mercenary Face. So it's an and or, so you can double up, right?
Yep.
The third one is an Outlaw Mercenary Hands unit and / or Outlaw Mercenary Face unit. So again, same as slot 2, you can double up. Slot 4, Outlaw Mercenary Hands and or Outlaw Mercenary Face unit, same as the above, and also can double up. The fifth slot is an Outlaw Mercenary Hands unit and or Outlaw Mercenary Support unit. So they're just going a little bit different, right? Instead of a face unit, you can double up with a hands unit and then bring a support unit.
Yeah.
And in the sixth slot, an Outlaw Face and or Outlaw Mercenary Support unit. All right. So again, that's that key, right? There's a key word missing, right? So when it's just Outlaw Face, you can now bring an outlaw that is not a mercenary. Right? Because there's some outlaws that aren't mercenaries, and you ain't bringing it until you get to that 6th slot.
Yeah, it's just
so it gives you a little more of a little more leeway in that last slot to bring someone who you wouldn't normally bring unless you get that far in the pot.
Like what we were saying, Brian, when you're looking at the different character cards, is to look at those keywords under their name, because that'll help you decide, okay, this guy can go, he's got this, so he'll fit there. But yeah, this is a lot of mercenaries, and with all those slots that you could also throw in hands, and with hands going down in cost, you could really swarm the board if you want.
Right. So I mean, that's Honor Among Thieves is a traditional what you would think of when you're watching the Western movie, and the bad guy is recruiting a bunch of hired hands, right?
Yeah.
That's why they're hands. Is he's walking out there and saying, hey, Billy T, bring your cousins. I'm going to give them $10 a head.
Daryl and his other brother, Daryl.
I'm going to go put up that Union fort, right? That's what he's doing. He's paying to bring as many of these low-level guys to come with him. Now, the key to his posse is he's bringing a bunch of what you would consider lieutenants.
Yeah, his buddies.
He's bringing more skilled guys with those hands. Right?
Yeah.
He's bringing, another face and a hands unit in that slot, because remember, if he fills up all the slots, those faces all get prodigious.
Yeah. So they're focusing for 3 instead of just 2.
Right. So it's a way for Jesse to stack the deck, in his favor by making sure he does bring some faces in his posse, because they're all going to benefit if we can get to that slot 6.
Yeah. This is totally one of my favorite posses to play.
Hey, Eric, I just want to recognize you for that deep cut with this is my brother Daryl and my other brother Daryl. I don't know if many people are going to get that.
I figured you would get that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people trying to look up who Billy T is. I don't have that model.
Is that a new model coming out in the new posse set?
Yeah, they're like, oh, did Brian talk to Stuart?
Yeah, this is, like I was saying, this is a fun posse. His theme posse is really fun to run because there's so many. I mean, the Outlaws are one of the biggest encompassing factions that there are, that they have so many options. I mean, even if you go into some of the sub-factions, there's going to be guys that have mercenary on them, or I'm trying to think, are there any other factions that have outlaws in them, like any of the lawmen, or like just recently, I mean, Billy can go, he's an outlaw that can go in lawmen. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
There's quite a few, actually. So in the lawmen, you have McCain.
That's right. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Right? The mask marshal, he's got outlaw and mercenary, so he can jump in on your outlaw side. The Copley sisters.
Yep.
Okay. One's a gunslinger, the other one's carrying a big giant rocket launcher. So the both of them also play both sides. Apache Kid.
Yep. Okay.
He's a member of the Regulators. He's also a Warrior Nation.
Yeah, so there's quite a few of them that are out there. You just got to kind of look at their keywords to see if they have, the mercenary trait that you can throw them in there. I mean, one of my favorite ones of late is Nakano. I mean, she can go in there and she's nasty. I mean, she helps Jesse with that gambler where she can take a peek, at that top card and decide if she wants to discard it or keep it.
She has shrewd strategy. And I also like to bring her in my lawman posses.
Yeah. Which is, so she's...
For the same reason. She's a really good melee option.
Yeah.
And then she has a really good list of abilities that you can bring into, that you may not have access to.
Yeah.
Such as shrewd strategist.
And treasure hunt.
She's a treasure hunter. So if you don't already have another treasure hunter, bringing her with Jesse is a good option because you're bringing the ability to look at the top cards, check for gambler.
Yep.
If you follow up her with Jesse, so yeah, you definitely want to take a peek across the faction lines because you may find some gems to bring into your favorite faction.
All right. I think that about wraps it up, guys. Is there anything else maybe we wanted to touch on with these guys and our first Smoke-Wagon Showdown? I think we kind of covered everything.
I don't know, Tom. Who wins?
Come on, Wyatt wins. We all know Wyatt wins.
Oh, man. No, put your arms down. They can't see that. Double J.
God, he is the law.
Oh, man. So, you know what I think we have to do since we're we are kind of split because you're not taking the neutral territory, Tom.
No, I'm a lawman player, man.
Man. So I'm outnumbered. So you know what we got to do is we got to put a poll up, I think, guys. Let's put a poll up on the Facebook page kind of talking about the Smoke-Wagon Showdown and we want you guys to kind of chime in. Who do you guys think would win, Wyatt or Jesse James, based on their abilities?
We'll spike Jesse James's head up there on top of the pole.
Oh, man.
Yeah, let's get you guys comment, hit your poll. Who do you like after listening to the this throwdown or the Smoke-Wagon Showdown? Who wins between these two models? Obviously, a lot of us have played games with these two, and we know it's not just these two guys. So, we've seen Jesse fall, we've seen Wyatt fall. Kind of happens to both of them. But
yeah,
tell us what you think. Who wins the matchup? And of course, if you want, you can also comment on a suggestion for the next team up. the next showdown.
Yeah, if you guys got any ideas for other showdowns, go ahead and let us know. Make a comment on in the Facebook or send us an email.
That's right. We have a list, but if you guys give us a good combo that we hadn't thought of yet, then who knows? It may be the next Smoke-Wagon Showdown.
What, are you going to just stand there and bleed?
That's right.
Well, we'll go ahead and get out of this segment, guys.
Oh, man, I didn't hit the next line.
All right, guys, so we have another segment for you guys in today's episode, and we want to touch in on the new rules update, the 1.09 rules. And originally what we were going to do was we were going to just go gangbusters and talk about, there's quite a bit of rules in the update, and we kind of thought about it and figured that there's a lot that we could cover, and we thought it'd be kind of better for you guys to take it in small amounts, and we wanted to touch on a couple of the key rule updates for 1.09 and just highlight those specific ones instead of going over because the rules update was mass, and from anything from new rules, some of the names of the special rules change to points change. But we want to cover some of the specific special rules that we think are the important ones. So, Brian, what should we start with, do you think?
Okay, so, depending on who you talk to, the three big ones, which is the ones we're going to talk about today, are the hands unit changed quite a bit.
Yeah. With
the introduction of masked melee and masked fire. So I say we start there.
Okay.
And then that also changed the effects that Quick and the Dead had on the game.
Yeah.
So we'll inadvertently talk about Quick and the Dead, but Quick and the Dead, the rule didn't change, but it got a little healthy boost in some regards because of mass melee and mass fire. So kind of like a dual mention. And then the elite hands units picked up something called combined fire, which basically undid some of the mass fire, by giving them a different option as they're grouping up their fire. And then one of the other big things was the introduction of Fatal.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that as well.
Okay. So let's go ahead and start with the mass fire and melee that the hands got. So I kind of like the way this works, Brian.
I do too. It was a neat, when it first came up during the beta, it was a neat way of, bringing some balance back to the game, because hands were very effective in large groups if they had a good ROA. So in particular, the Watchers.
Oh God.
With pulse rifles, where they had a ready to fire a 3, and when you brought 10,
it was nasty.
And way Quick and the Dead interacted with that is you got to ignore one model.
Yeah, and you're still taking a crap ton of shots.
You're still trying to dodge 27. Yeah, you're rolling 27 grit checks. It's just not pretty. And so literally your face units were hard to survive that.
Yeah.
Right? So the way to balance that is this new rule they came up with, masked fire and masked melee. So I'll read it just to get us started, and then we will discuss it.
Okay.
Some of the interactions of masked fire get a little more detailed. So we'll do masked melee. It's a quicker one. So when this unit makes a strike action, choose a model to make the strike action with. Every other model in the unit with the same weapon in range of the initial target forgoes make its own fight check, and instead adds their weapon's ROA to that first model's ROA for that single strike action. So
the key word is, I think the key word there is range. They have to be close enough to add.
Especially with especially in melee, right?
Yeah.
So you have a unit of 10. There logistically is no way your entire hand unit of 10 is going to have range on that initial target.
Yeah.
It just logistically you can't. Go ahead, everyone, practice the mental gymnastics of one base surrounded by how many bases? How many other 1-inch bases can you surround that one guy?
Yeah.
Not very many, right? Not a full 10.
No.
And there's not a whole lot of hands who have a 1-inch or more range on their melee weapon. They're usually all the base, right?
Yeah.
So that's one limiting factor for the masked melee, right? It was always there before, because not all your units are going to be striking when they're doing that anyway.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things, mass fire. So you don't get around that with mass fire. So say you have five models surrounding a face, you roll from one, and you add the rate of attack from 4 of them onto that one.
Yeah.
So you only roll, it's one attack instead of several.
Yeah.
So what that does in interaction with the way Quicken the Dead works is before you would only be able to Quicken the Dead the first models ROA.
Yep.
And then you had to then suffer the rest of those ROAs. But now those ROAs are added to the first attack. So it's not 5 attacks, it's 1 attack, and you dodge that, and you dodge them all.
Yeah. And that's for the melee, right?
That's melee.
Yes.
Right. And we'll discuss now that we're going to move into the mass fire. There's a reason melee ends there.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, the way the melee works and stuff.
And the main reason it doesn't have the second part of mass fire is because it already has a limiting ability, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You can't get your whole unit in range.
Yeah. So that range thing, it happens again. So.
Right. So mass fire is very much the same as mass melee, except it's for shoot action. So when this unit makes a shoot action, you must choose a single model to make the shoot action with. Unless armed with a different ranged weapon, every other model in the unit in range of the initial target does not make their own aim check and must instead add their weapon's ROA to that first model's ROA for that shoot action. Okay, pretty much the same.
Yep.
The only thing is they talk about different ranges, right? So this comes into play when you have, your 6th model in the unit has an upgraded weapon and it has a different range.
Yeah.
So that's when that would separate them, right? So that person will shoot separate.
So then it'll be 2 shoot actions, basically.
So, for example, I've got 5 Union troopers, riflemen. The 6th one has a Gatling, right? And they're within 15-inch range. So the ranges are the same, but because it's a different ranged weapon, that Gatling shoots separate.
Yep.
From the 5 rifles. So one of those 5, checks his range, and as long as the other 4 are also in range, they add their ROA.
Yep.
Now, here's this next step, right? Each model's ROA is still reduced to 1 for give 'em hell reactions, with the exception of that first model.
Okay.
And then it continues. Y'all understand that, right? So basically, the first model, if you have a rifle with an ROA of 2, he still gets those 2 in the give 'em hell, but all the other guys only get the 1.
Yeah.
So there's the next part is each initial targets using the Quicken the Dead against shoot actions that are massed fire reduces the ROA from that massed fire action by the value of the Quicken the Dead successful quick check. So instead of dodging the entire thing, you add that roll, or you subtract that roll, whatever you rolled, and your
quick check is.
So whatever the ultimate roll is. So say you roll a 5 and you have a quick of 5, you get to 10, which means you succeed.
Yep.
So if you succeed, you then take that 10 and you subtract it from the massed fire ROA.
Okay.
So if it's a 10 unit, 1 ROA rifle group of, that's 10 ROA, right? So obviously you you dodged all of them.
All of them, yep.
But if it's, say, rifles with a 2 ROA,
Okay.
right, and you rolled the same and you have a 10, you subtract 10 from the 20.
So you're still going to be taking, you avoided 10 of them.
20,
yeah.
But you still now got to do 10 grit checks.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that's, again, one of the reasons this helps is before you were only ignoring one of those models with Quick and the Dead.
Yeah.
All the other ones hit you. Now, Quick and the Dead is a little more powerful against hands. Virtually no change against faces, but against some hands, the Quick and the Dead is a little more powerful, thus rebalancing that. Right?
Yeah.
So your heroes have a little more help when they're fighting the mob, right?
Yeah,
but not that much help. Because that ROA compounds as you get those big groups of models, and so it still has an impact, right?
Yeah.
So we mentioned the watchers with the ROA of 3. You gotta roll high.
Yeah.
Because you're just adding whatever you rolled. So even if you have a quickness of 8 and you roll a 10, so that's 18.
Yeah.
That's huge. But if it's a unit of 10, that's still 30. So
yeah, that's still a lot of shots. Yeah. So it's basically, like you said, it balances it out where, say, it used to be that if you wanted to really be able to deal with bosses and faces, you took big units of hands that would be throwing a lot of dice at them. And when you use Quick and the Dead, like you said, you're just avoiding one guy's shot. Whereas now it works differently, that you have that chance. It's a chance now that you can avoid all those shots.
Right.
Or still take some of them.
Right. So like the weaker hands, you're good. You're going to probably survive that. Right.
I mean, most hands, their rate of attack is like 1.
Right. So the ones that get more, or say you have your close combat hands and they go all revolver fan on your butt. The Quick and the Dead is going to be effective.
Yeah.
All right. So the other one, very similar to mass fire and mass melee, is combined fire. So combined fire is only really going to show up in the more powerful hands, right? So these are like your second wave hands. Think back to first edition. So your rangers, your scalpers, your abominations, those guys, they pick up this rule. It just gives them a little more oomph. So we'll start with reading it. This unit may choose to use this rule instead of mass fire. When this unit makes a shoot action, each model may choose to forego making its own aim check and instead add +1 to another model in the unit's aim attribute, or pierce 1 to another model in the unit's piercing value for that single shoot action. So you get the little play with the effectiveness of the weapon, right? So it basically saying, hey, me shooting out on my own, I'm going to decide to focus on making sure we're hitting the target. So we're combining our aim. So you add +1 to aim.
Okay.
Or I'm going to, my focus is, instead of getting my shot independently, I'm going to try to shoot and support the guy shooting to make sure we penetrate the armor, right? So the piercing. So it kind of like a very, they're better at helping each other shoot instead of just massing all their, it's instead of pray and spray.
Yeah.
These guys can do something with their assistants instead of just throwing more dice down the range. So kind of a neat thing for the elite guys,
Well, they're a little more skilled, so it's kind of very thematic with them.
Right. All right. So then the last one we'll talk about today, it actually affects other things, but one of the big impacts in 1.09.
Brian, should we mention the whole combined fire cannot be combined with mass fire?
Right. So yeah, the thing about mass and combined, you have to choose one or the other. They don't stack. So say you have a group of 10 rangers, and your one guy is going to mass fire. Well, you decide how many are going to mass fire with. Because you have the option of combined fire, you can then select another model to also shoot, right?
Yeah.
So say I've got 10, one guy is going to mass fire, so I can put as many of the others in there, but I'm going to pick one to combine fire. So then I've got 2 shoot actions that I'm tinkering with, right?
Yeah.
So let's say we put 4 of them into mass fire. So that one attack is going to have 4 models worth of ROA on top. So ROA of 1 is going to be a 5 ROA attack.
Okay.
But then I have this other guy, my say 6th model is going to shoot an attack. Well, then I've got those other 4, and they're going to combine fire. So they're going to add the +1 to +2 to aim and -2 to pierce. So that rounds out the rest of those units.
Okay.
Right. But you can't affect the mass fire.
Yeah, it's one or the other.
Right. So once you started these guys mass firing, you can't turn that mass fire into a better aim or a better pierce, but you can with the combined fire guy. So you just got to separate those up.
Okay.
So let's go on to the next one we were going to discuss.
So one more.
And we're going to go with probably, I think a lot of people really enjoy this new twist to Pierce 4, right?
Yeah.
So in the previous edition, Pierce 4 did a lot of defensive, corruption, right?
Yeah, basically went through everything.
Tough didn't work. There was other like defensive abilities that like Coca-Cola's had that, their defensive abilities didn't work if it was a Pierce 4 or higher. So all those things are gone, right? So Pierce 4 weapons are just like Pierce 3 weapons now.
Yeah.
It just has one more penetration.
I mean,
right?
they're still strong. I mean, it's a -4, it's still deadly.
Right. And to offset that, they created a new weapon quality, and it's called Fatal. And what Fatal says is hits with this quality ignore the metal rule.
And usually you'll see the Fatal keyword on criticals. So if you guys roll a critical, then that action of shooting or striking becomes fatal.
Right. When we were talking about in our Smoke-Wagon Showdown between the 2 bosses, one of the things we mentioned was that Wyatt Earp's Pierce 4 Magnum Peacemakers picked up Fatal as its crit bonus, right?
Yeah.
So his Pierce 4 has Fatal. What'll happen is if you crit, they can't use metal to ignore that shot, right?
Yeah.
But note, it doesn't have anything to do with tough. So what they've done is they've made more of a separation between metal and tough, right?
Yeah.
So before, tough and metal were kind of like the same, but tough had the ability to re-roll grit checks. Now they're kind of tiered. So metal is like your first layer of defense, right?
Yep.
Well, if you're a little more tougher than the average boss or the average face, right? So say you've got like a heavy armor and you're just a more stout guy, that's who picks up tough. Well, now you're right. Fatal doesn't affect tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are tougher, so to speak, right?
You could shake it off.
But tough lost its reroll, and they created a new ability called Hardy.
Oh, yep, that's right.
Which gives you the ability to reroll failed grit checks.
Yeah.
So they separated that into a different rule because you can have some people who are tough, but now not everyone with the old tough is going to also have Hardy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then they further made another tier of defense. And I like that separation.
I think that's cool, that layering effect, because it helps separate, it gives more personality to the different units of how are they on the field. Is it just kind of the bottom tier guy that, he's got metal, so he's okay, he can kind of get by. But then as you get to the more beefier and scarier skilled type guys, well, then they're gonna get that tough, and then like you said, the hardy. So I like that.
I do too. And then also you can get some guys who are hardy, but they're not necessarily tough.
Yeah.
So you will be able to have some of your guys might have metal and they picked up hardy. So they're, again, there's a way of scaling up your defensive abilities amongst your peers. So such like, you have, it's a way to separate.
Yeah. It's totally a way to separate the characters.
So-and-so because he's got hardy. He's a little survivable. Or I'm going to take so-and-so because he's got he's got tough, he's got durable, he can stack up his defensive abilities, So
and what it's gonna do too is it's like you kind of touched on. It's gonna give you that variety for when you're posse building, and there's going to be more levels of characters. What am I looking at this character? Why would I pick this character? Not just like what his weapon is and how much he costs, but you're going to look at his defensive abilities and how much better is he at surviving on the field. So I think that's a neat leveling system that they came up with. Well, all right. That's kind of basically all we wanted to touch on for the new 1.09 rules. We just want to keep it kind of a quick and just touch on some of those key important elements in the new rules update and just make you guys aware of some of these important rule changes. And this is something that we're talking about that maybe in a string of episodes we'll have a quick chat like this where we just say, hey, let's talk about, we ended up making a big list of ones that we wanted to talk about, and maybe we'll try and group them into where they're kind of somewhat related. Like it could be check the bounty or compel, something, how those have changed, and just keep it a short little discussion. So,
we're just going to bring them up over the next few episodes until we catch them all.
Yeah.
Obviously, if there's some that you guys want to hear sooner than later, just so you guys can hear us discuss, the options of brain, hit us up on the comments, and we may move it up our list.
By all means, we like yakking about this stuff. So
right.
we'll go ahead and get out of this segment, you guys, and we'll move on.
Started, man. Just start.
Okay, start. It's going.
It's going now?
It's going now, Brian.
Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. So, hey, Eric, what do we see today? We got the last spoiler today, so why don't we go over the new pre-orders that should have hit the store by the time you hear this recording, y'all.
Yeah. So pre-orders came up, so we actually saw. It looked like we're going to be getting just 3 for next month for September, Brian. And we saw the guy that is the law, who I am officially nicknaming this guy Tom's model. Because he's kind of holding up the sheet saying this is how you say it, this is the law. But we're seeing Judge Stern, and the pic that we saw just today of his whole set looks like he's coming with a lot of other models.
Right. So his posse, if everyone, go ahead and go look it up. His posse is designed around bringing angry mobs.
Yeah, it's like multiple.
He can bring quite a few angry mobs, and all the angry mobs actually pick up the deputy trait, in his posse.
Okay.
So they're considered deputies, and the kicker of it is we only have the 3 original civilians, right?
Yeah.
And then we have 3 new civilians, and they released 1 set of 3 angry mobsters. Well, that 3 angry mobsters is, you're not going to buy a whole crud load of the same 3 models.
Yeah.
So what they do in his new box is it's 10 models in total in this posse box.
Looks like we're getting 5 new ones, Brian.
Yeah, so it's 9 angry mob models.
That's nuts.
And then Judge Stern. And it's a new Judge Stern. So
yeah.
He's gotten retooled.
I'm excited about this because my Judge Stern, I think he got a couple colors on him and his hammer broke. I mean, that old hammer was so big, and the way he was holding it up above, that it was easily snapped.
Right. So I haven't lost my hammer. I think it may have broke while I was building him.
Okay.
Like it just snapped at the glue point, and so I just had to re-glue it.
Yeah.
But he's got a new pose. Instead of swinging the hammer like his original pose, he's
Yeah, he's
holding up basically a warrant.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. That's a warrant.
A judge's order to apprehend someone, and he's holding it up. I think someone during the teaser, because the teaser was this sheet of paper being held up, so that was the tease, right? So
yeah,
we had to figure out what that was by this piece of paper, and someone goes, "Is that a purity seal?" So, I was like, "That plays 40K." But it's a really neat model. You know, I'm excited about that. Then of course, like I said, there is a bunch of angry mobsters, so you can really outfit.
One guy that's got the big dog, that looks like, was it Winfred Brimley guy from, the Quaker Oats guy? And he's holding a dog. And that dog's huge.
Right. It's a dude, he's got these huge handlebar mustache, but he's got basically one of the dire wolves from the Game of Thrones, on a leash. And he thinks it's funny. He's got this big grin on his face.
Yeah, he does.
So that's one of the new mobsters. Then there's a fat gal in overalls.
What's on her shoulder?
And she looks to have like a raccoon. Someone says it's a raccoon, but who knows what it is? It's a little blurry.
It's a little critter of some kind.
She's got basically her pet on her shoulder.
Oh, man.
It's hilarious. I love it. And then there's a guy with some moonshine and a pistol, and he's also wearing overalls, but he's real skinny. So they're probably hooked up, these two, coming off the farm.
Well,
then there's an old granny.
Yeah, Granny
with
Clampett. That's Granny Clampett. That shotgun.
Then there's a pretty gal screaming in a dress. Not really sure what she's swinging.
I think that might be her arm.
Well, I hope not. Yeah, maybe it is. Like she's pulled her cybernetic arm off. And she's using it as,
that's kind of what that looks like.
She doesn't look like she's dead, so she's an actual civilian. But that might be it. It might be she's pulled her arm off to swing it around. And then there's the newlyweds, and there's this guy like carrying his wife across the threshold, and she's got a sawed-off double barrel.
Oh, that's funny. I like that. I like the pistol.
So, and then of course, then you have the three previous angry mobsters we saw. The big guy, making the kill mark.
Yeah, your time is up.
And he's got a noose in his hand. And then there's the two little brats, one with a slingshot, one with the oar, and they come on the same base. And then there's the guy with the torch. He's got a flaming torch and it looks like he's lighting a cigar. So you get all of those with Judge Stern.
Yeah, that's cool.
So definitely a thumbs up for really kicking it up a notch and bringing us, a whole bunch of new variety for pulling off angry mobs in the game.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I saw that. I was already excited knowing we're going to see what Judge Stern's bringing.
Yeah.
But now we know he's bringing literally, 6 new models?
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
7 new models.
And I never got that original Angry Mob set, so this one
I don't have any of them.
Yeah.
And so this will be kind of cool. I'll pick that up and I'll get quite a collection of them. So that was teaser 1, right?
Yeah.
And so the second teaser was this weird clawy picture. And, of course, the scuttlebutt started immediately trying to figure out what that was.
That community's pretty good, too.
Yeah. And it was like, what? And I remember the claw. Right?
That was quite a while ago.
Up on the claw, there's this like little whirlpool in the claw.
Yeah.
So it kind of made me think of the spirit apparition. So then I started looking at artwork, and they had showed off this picture of one of the new spirits. I think it's on the card art for Spirit Missions now.
Yeah.
And so it was like, oh, yeah, that's got to be it, right? So, but it's a 2-model box. And they didn't go and grab one of the previous apparitions.
These are completely new. 2
new sculpts. And, of course, so you have the one who looks straight out of, like, Poltergeist.
Yeah.
He's a smoke swirl but then he's hunched over, and then he's got these long outstretched arms with claws. It looks really cool. But then the other one is like completely different, and it looks like 3 or 4 spirits all, peeling off of each other.
Yeah, one's kind of creepy looking.
And then the main one has boob swirls. So it's an evil chick spirit apparition.
Yeah, I mean, she's got clawed hands and stuff, and yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's a creepy one.
Then no bottom jaw, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she kind of has that corpse. Well, that one really has kind of that corpse-looking,
Well, here's really what this is, right? So the female spirit has no jaw, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of tells its own story, right? So something happened for these 3 spirits to all as an apparition, and I'm thinking the 2 other dudes were like suitors.
That's interesting.
And they got tired of her nagging them. So they took her jaw, right? And so now they follow her around, in memoriam as spirits, right?
Yeah. All
Not
right,
really.
Brian. You're stretching, man, but no, I think that's cool.
But it's weird. I mean, there's
you can make up whatever story you want with these. That's what's cool.
Right. And then, of course, the original spirit apparitions had multiple faces, swirling around masses and stuff. So this one is a lot like the originals, where you have multiple faces, inhabiting the same swirling mass.
Mm-hmm. Whereas the other...
You get girl off of this one.
The other ones just looks like kind of a, your beast, basically.
Well, it kind of reminds me of like an anemic version of what's surrounding Raven Spirit.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Right? Not as bulky, but definitely still going to be able to reach out and claw something.
Yeah. All right, so that'll be for the Warrior Nation. And then what else? We got another one.
Basically, we got one posse box. Then we got the Build a Force box, right? Where it's a 2 model box, and it's designed for you to have multiples of it, so you can flesh out.
It's like a support box, basically.
Your hex, because they can use spirit apparitions.
Yeah, that's right.
Order, they can use spirit apparitions and Warrior Nation. So really, it's a box for 3 different factions.
Okay.
And you're going to want to pick up more than 2.
Yeah.
Because you can field them in, as many as you want. So it's kind of got the posse box. We got the Build an Army box. And then the third teaser actually came out this morning, shortly before a game store posted the pictures. The new.
Yeah, that was good.
Like, Fort Cradle didn't put it out. So it was like they must have got these from like the early order form that the retailers get.
Yeah.
So it was kind of neat. We got that a little early sneak because, one of the retailers was like, whoa! And he couldn't wait to post it. So great for us. Okay, so the teaser that came out today was weird. It was like this weird monster hand, like almost copping a feel on a couple of pair of legs, right?
Yeah. And we've seen this before, like a early production model at one of the shows. I want to say it was PAX or,
This model a while ago, sometime last year. And of course, they printed out the little wooden plaque and tell us her name. And so we've seen it. We've seen her for a while, and it's a legendary. So it's a legendary duo. It's Lucretia and I'm gonna butcher this last one. Tituba.
That's how I would say it, Brian. Tituba.
Right. So Lucretia and Tituba. Don't know which one's which, although I'm sure we'll find out. But it's basically an uncorrupted female being carried by a hex beast female. And she's very big. So think of the size-wise of like that last, like Borquette.
Yeah, that's what it looks about size.
Bloated body, super huge arms, the boils everywhere, big face, huge mouth, and then a very pretty gal literally being carried. So it's really neat, and it tells a story. Really, this model tells a story, and can't wait to find out about her, because when they post these in the store, they put this like little
What's
fluff
the fluff?
too.
I'm curious of the fluff behind this one.
So it's like these sisters, and one of the sisters ate the apple. I don't know. She's carrying.
That's what. Yeah. So the little hottie toddy up on the shoulder kind of reminds me of Snow White. I don't know if it's the little bit of the outfit, or she's got a bow or something in her hair, but that's what it reminds me of, is Snow White.
And of course she's holding something in her hand, and it reminds me of like an apple.
Yeah, it does.
Holding an apple in her hand.
I might have to go through some of my old pictures from the different conventions to see if I took a picture of this model.
Right. I think you did. I'm pretty sure you did. And someone posted a picture of it today, so everyone knew what the name was.
Yeah.
Because he remembered that too. It wasn't painted, and the actual, that was a scan, like a 3D print.
Yeah.
So it's not a production model that we got to see. We got to see the original 3D print.
Kind of like so they did that with some of the other ones. Like I remember they did that with Legendary Jed in 2020. Yeah. It was an early print thing.
With the Kokoroli, we were seeing those e-prints at the conventions before they actually got run off the production line.
That's right.
So, we get, I think that's another really good month. We've been getting really good stuff out of the War Cradle the last 3 months.
Yeah. With
the two outlaw posses, the Cowboys, and then we get the Regulators.
Oh my God. The Cowboys and the Regulators, those look really fun with all those mercenaries, and with the new rules, the way that the mercenaries, I think they got better with.
I think so. I think 1.09 got you see a little more separation.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of them that were so similar, didn't really matter which one you brought.
Yeah. Yeah. Now
they each have a little bit of a twist to where they have a little separation from them. And then, of course, the Cowboy box, everyone got a new skull.
Yeah, that's a nice box.
To a model, something was altered. The pose, upgrades of styling. Chef was one of my favorite outlaw models. And the new one is actually even more entertaining, because now he's picking his teeth with a knife.
Yeah, and they didn't. It's like those little tiny changes that they did that just really bring out a personality in them.
And then Bill Brocious, he's got a new pose.
Yep.
He's out with both hands with his pistols, and then and HonkyBot.
Yeah, he's got the running pose.
It looks like he's in action mode. He's even got a flame coming out of his little metal arm. So he looks really good. And I hate to admit this, but I rewatched Tombstone the other day.
It's probably because you heard me playing that little soundbite so much for our one segment for this episode.
Because we were doing the Smoke-Wagon, and I did. I just I was flipping the channels the other day over the weekend, and it had started 30 minutes before, and I was like, nah, I want to watch the whole thing. So I looked on the thing, and it's like, sure enough, it was going to let me start it from the start. So I was like,
man.
Yep, I'm going to watch it. It's so good.
So that Cowboys,
there's so many other names that I'd love, Turkey Creek Johnson, and
they could, they got a lot more in there.
There's other names in that time period that would be cool to see come forward.
I think we could see them. Why not? We'll see them.
Yeah.
So that Cowboys posse, that's the one that's should be shipping this week.
This week?
Yeah. What else is shipping this week with that, this last month that we had?
Oh, so
we had our big nasty guy, right?
We had the Portal Vanguard come out.
Portal Vanguard, okay.
But remember, the Portal Vanguard came with the clear portals, right?
Oh, it came out already. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so
month shipping now will be the ability for you to order just the clear plastic portals.
That's right.
So it's the Army builder for the month from last month, right? So it's a way of all the different, factions that have portals. Now you'll be able to order these clear portal swirls so you can, have enough of them on a board to have your guys jumping around.
Yeah.
So that was, I guess, the build army option that we got. And then we
got legendary Vorkek coming too. So he was our big old big guy.
So didn't we get a piece of terrain? Yeah, we got
Bayou.
the Bayou Rotten Jetty. So the previous terrain set was, a Bayou Shack, right?
Yeah.
And
so this is the second Bayou terrain.
Or in the water. This one is basically a rundown, abandoned, Bayou Shack. And it has a lot of junk to, for scatter terrain, including a half-submerged canoe and half-submerged boxes and barrels.
That's neat. That's really neat that they did that little detail thing like that.
And one of the neat things is if you look close into the photos, you can see some of the pieces of the roof. They actually put little ravens.
That's right. When we were talking about this in when it first came up for pre-order, they had ravens, and I'm still worried that I'm going to bust those off. Trying to pop that out.
Then you can just glue them wherever you want them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Or, Halloween is coming up. I can probably go find what they have, the little Halloween villages. I can probably find those little, resin ravens at Michael's, Because I'm already planning on making a trip there to find some coffins and what kind of spooky trees I can find.
Yeah.
But, yeah, those ones are all the ones that should be shipping this week. Oh, so we just finished up GenCon, Brian. They actually are not slowing down. War Cradle is heading to Tabletop Gaming Live in end of September 28th to 29th in London. And I believe they were there last year at this, and they actually ran a tournament there. Mr. Pond ran a tournament I remember seeing pictures of. I think it's a little bit smaller. It's not quite as big as their UK Games Expo, or what's the other big one that they have over there they do? Spiel, I think, is one that they've gone to. I don't think it's quite as big as that. I think it's more of the size of like an Adepticon for us.
Spiel is coming up, and that's in Germany, I believe.
Is that the Germany one? Okay.
And that's coming up. I think we have some war hosts. The European war hosts, I think, are going to be out there helping out. I haven't heard any events specifically, but they'll be out there with the big booth and some demos. So
yeah, I think the rest of their little con dates are over either in England or in Europe.
I think they're coming to PAX South or PAX Unplugged again.
How would I forget about that? Yeah, that's right. They're coming to Philly.
December,
that's right. Duh.
Up there where, in Mike Pierce's domain.
Yeah, I made that big trek last year. We drove 12 hours to go to that. That's definitely a growing con, too.
Yeah, and I think Tom was saying that the way that con is run may throw a wrench into actually doing formal events over there.
Yeah, I know.
Hopefully they get that solved and they can get an actual tournament up there.
Yeah, I know between him and Mike, they've been really looking into it, and there is a growing community over there in that area too, so it'd be a shame that if they couldn't get something going. Shoot, I'd say just go to one of the hotels and put it on. See if they have a ballroom. Say, hey, can we use your ballroom this day?
But I know I've heard that's how some events pop up over at Adepticon.
Well, yeah.
I knew a guy who he does terrain, and he actually hosted a big event, but it was not a Adepticon event, but it was the same weekend. It was like, come over and do this event with me, and so it was kind of a neat,
just off to the side type of thing.
We're going to be doing something, so come over here, kind of thing.
I just found that picture. It was at GenCon last year.
What was that?
The
appreciate?
Yeah, when they first featured it, and it does look like a 3D printed model, kind of that weird texture to it. All right, hey Brian, so before we get out of here today for this episode, we actually had some other show business that we wanted to do that we announced, it was last episode, where we were having a giveaway for our listeners. Just to sum it up real quick, so what we were going to do is for all you guys that liked, subscribed, and followed our Facebook page, our Podbean stream,
Or YouTube.
and then our YouTube channel. And what we ended up doing was compiling all the names that we could see, because some of you guys that follow, like, and all that stuff have it on privacy settings, which is fine. And some of you guys did go ahead and email me and say, hey, put me in that, that list. And what we were going to do is draw a name, and we're giving away a Red Oak 2-player starter set for you guys. Real simple rules. So we compiled this big old list, and we went ahead and piled them all in the old 10-gallon hat and drew a name. So let me pick that name up, and you ready? Drum roll, Brian? Do we got a drum roll? So the winner of our Red Oak starter is Chris Hodge from our Facebook page. He liked the page, and out of, we had a total of about 300, just over 300 people through that big old list, Brian, and he was the name that got drawn. So congratulations, Chris. We're going to go ahead and get a hold of you, get your address, and we can get that sent out to you. But wait, Brian. Wait. There's more.
What is
Eric's
more?
Eric's feeling generous. I want to give away a second prize, a second Red Oak starter set. So let me dive into that 10-gallon hat again.
I don't know. Are you sure? We're gonna do the second one?
I feel like one of those crazy car dealers that we're just they gotta go. We're making deals. They gotta go. So our second Red Oak starter set is going to go to James Russell DeMello. I hope I'm saying your name right, James. So there you go. Congratulations, James.
I don't know if he's winning. He may not tell you
that's true.
Said it wrong.
Yeah. He's probably going to be like, you can call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for dinner.
Like, we just gave him Jesse James and Wyatt Earp and a couple of vehicles. He may just like, no, that's how I'll go. That's how I'm going to pronounce it from now on,
So cool drawing for the second one. James I remember seeing him pop up on Facebook just recently. He's a newer guy that's getting into the game. I hope this can get you started into the rabbit hole that is Wild West Exodus. And big thanks to Tim from the Gift of Games in Grayslake, Illinois, one of my local stores, for the donation of the Red Oak starter set for our giveaway this episode. Yeah, thanks you guys for liking, sharing, and subscribing to all our little social things.
Receiving these two gifts on the, I guess, twilight of an episode where we dive deep in both of the bosses that come in that set.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know.
It was fate. It's fate.
It's like we planned it.
So congratulations to both our winners.
Enjoy the gift, and obviously, if you have any questions about what you can do with those, just drop us comments once you get those goodies, and stay tuned for more.
Yeah, I want to see some pics on the Facebook page of your guys, your models all together and stuff, and I think that'd be cool. So.
Oh no, I'm sure everyone gets excited when these things kind of show up. Yeah. I still remember during the Kickstarter, everyone was posting up pictures of their box on the porch.
That's right.
The handful who already have boxes were like, "Yay, way to go!" All of us that didn't have them were like, "Oh, yay!" Yay!
So yeah, we'll get a hold of our two winners, and I'll get some addresses and send them out. And you guys, thanks for liking, the show and what we're doing here, and liking and following, and keep listening, because me and Brian and Tom, we talk about all the time, we want to keep doing stuff like this because we feel it kind of energizes the community. in helping each other and just getting excited about the game, to play games. And War Cradle's doing some exciting stuff right now.
Oh yeah, and just remember, like the more you listen, watch, talk, type about Wild West Exodus, the more things you're going to pick up. And Tom, Eric, and I, we pick up new things and new ways of play and
oh yeah,
new ways to use models. Just by doing what we're doing. So by all means, give us a heads up if there's something that you got a question about, or heck, send us a funny story about a game. I remember Tom nicknamed his hands, during gameplay.
Yeah.
Like he had a hand that could not climb. It could not make any climb checks, and it was like literally he spent the whole game trying to have this one guy climb to the second floor of the building. And he nicknamed, and then of course the one guy who saves every time he's shot, nickname him. I think someone on Facebook said that they're actually painting the names of their hands on their bases.
Yep.
Just so they have their own identities. Tell us those type of stories. We'd love to brag about your idea during an episode or something. So
yeah.
That's
the fun thing about the game, is creating those stories. So
yeah, or bragging rights.
Well, all right, guys. So you can, as always, find us on Facebook at Blackhoof WWX Podcast. Email us at blackhoofsaloon@gmail.com. Email us with your stories and your ideas for future Smoke-Wagon Showdowns or any questions you may have. We're also on Twitter and Instagram if you guys want to see some pics of what the three of us are up to. I mean, Brian and Tom are actually working on some projects to get up on the old YouTube, and it could be some exciting stuff for you guys to check out. And we'll go ahead and end episode 15 and get ready for the next one, Brian. So when you guys are caught in the street in a showdown with either that vile Jesse James or maybe that law dog Wyatt Earp, remember to skin that smoke wagon and don't stand there and just bleed. And always ride with the sun at your back. And always roll those big crits. We will talk to you later, guys. Good night. Say good night, Brian. Give him a yeehaw.
Good night, Brian. Yeehaw!
All right.
Thanks for stopping by the Blackhoof Saloon, y'all. We hope you enjoyed your visit. Feel free to get a hold of us with comments or questions via the interwebs and shoot us a telegraph at blackhoofsaloon@gmail.com. You can also find us on the Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Music for the podcast was provided for use by Ross Bugden and can be found at one of his YouTube channels, Ross Bugden Music or Ross Bugden Composer. Until your next visit, ride with the sun at your back and always roll those big crits.
Okay. So we're going to do tumbleweeds. All right, I'll start. You watching Battle Hammer? I hear dogs barking.
I was wondering who was barking. I'm like, whose dog's going?
Blessing at my daughter's large dog.
It was good. There was some slapstick in there.
Well, sure, it's me painting. Of course, there's slapstick in there.
I should, you know what? When we do first post that stuff, I need to find a GIF or an old picture of from the Three Stooges when they were trying to break out of prison and they painted their prison suits like guard suits. We'll just post that.
That's it. Be like, done.
I love
Dip
that.
them and done.
That episode was so good.
We didn't bring up Brian and my painting challenge.
Oh, go ahead and
my make Tom do the challenge.
I'll put it in there. I can easily put it in there. Just start off by saying, "Oh, hey, yeah, and this," "Oh, yeah, and this." Okay. Who wants to take us in?
Take us in.
Yeah, take us into the segment.
I'm trying to figure out how this guy's head goes on. How the frick does this fit together? It doesn't even make sense.
All right, everybody, welcome back to a new segment that we're starting out. We're going to call this segment the Smoke That Wagon. That's not it.
Smoke That Wagon?
Take two.
That's a different place.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
Yeah, that's Tom's bar. All right, let's go.
Well, we'll go ahead and get out of this segment, guys.
Oh man, I didn't. The next line in that scene is when they find Doc, and of course the guy comes back with the shotgun, and he's ready to prove himself against this unknown guy. Just threw him out of the bar, and of course he's like, "Hey, Doc," and he's like, oh, and he kind of ignores him right in front of all this. They know he's all raged and wanting to fight, and then they literally just ignore him. And then Doc Holly looks at him and goes, "Oh, you'll still fight him." I love that line. Like, "Oh, you still fight him." Run along now. I was just like, oh my god, just the way that I mean, it's totally emasculating. It was just
And he just does it. That's what cracks me up. He's just like, "Oh, okay."
Well, he's like, okay, and then Wyatt's like, and you can just leave that gun leaning up against the post.
Of course, in the meantime, he had heard Doc call him Wyatt, and so he's like,
Thank you.
That was the moment where he shit himself because he just realized he was trying to be all
ending my life.
yeah, he'd be all huffy with Wyatt.